Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I'm actually in Burlington, Vermont right now, working on a new story. The leaves, by the way, are changing here right now. It's a beautiful time of year to be in Burlington. Unfortunately, what I'm working on is not quite so positive, which I'll get to in a later episode when I figure out the whole situation. But what I'm going to focus on in this episode is this arrest that was made, a man arrested for arson, for setting, according to authorities, the fire that led to the Palisades fire, which we know was so devastating in California. I was in California covering it. I've never seen anything like it. I just went through the entire criminal complaint for this man who was arrested, by the way, in Florida, which is kind of interesting. Also spoke with my friend, former FBI agent Steve Moore, what he thinks of the complaint. And it's interesting. He is not that impressed with this criminal complaint. He thinks that there are holes in this complaint. He has questions about what the motive is. There's some concern there. And there's also people who I've been talking to in California who feel like it is possible that this man is a scapegoat for a bigger problem, a bigger failure by the state of California and the government there when it comes to these fires. So I'm going to dig into the complaint. I'm going to tell you everything that it says. Then I'm going to analyze it with Steve. That's coming up in this episode of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, so the fires, the wildfires in California, especially in the Palisades, really had an impact on me just because I was there covering them. And you guys know I'm from Florida, so I dealt with a lot of hurricanes over the years. Growing up, I dealt with hurricanes. Working in news, I covered a ton of hurricanes, and that feels like kind of what I'm used to in terms of disasters. But when I covered the fires in California, I had never seen anything like it. I mean, it was just like scorched earth. Homes, one after another, burned down to the core. And again, I mean, I had never been to a fire like that before. It's something that I'll never, ever forget. The people that I met, I'll never, ever forget. So I've obviously stayed on top of the situation in terms of who's to blame, the shortcomings of the government in California, the state government, the local government, Los Angeles city government, the fire department. I mean, I've been on top of it all. So this arrest really came as quite interesting to me because I was there for weeks covering the fires and I've never experienced anything quite like that. So the latest on the arrest today, the man arrested, his name is Jonathan Rinderknecht, 29 years old. He was arrested Tuesday in Melbourne, Florida, and the governor of California identified him as a Florida resident, which is interesting because we know he was living in the Palisades at one point in California, but the governor in California is now identifying him as a Florida resident, which he was very specific in his tweet, Gavin Newsom, to say that it was a Florida resident, which I thought was kind of like felt a little political, but it is true, it seems like. So he was arrested Tuesday, Melbourne, Florida, charged with destruction of property by means of fire. He is a former resident of Pacific Palisades. Again, his name is Jonathan Rinderknecht. And the criminal complaint alleged that he started the fire on New Year's Day. And police actually interviewed him on January 24th. So he's been on their radar for quite some time. About his whereabouts the day the fire started, during which they said he lied about being on a hiking trail at the time. Officials said that Rinderknecht had been working as an Uber driver on New Year's Eve with two passengers he picked up that night, telling authorities that he appeared to be agitated and angry. And I'm going to go over all of the evidence here in a second, and I've also got a former FBI agent who I'm going to talk to about all of this. And it's interesting, and you'll hear Steve Moore, the former FBI agent, say this. He believes that there's not a lot of concrete evidence in this criminal affidavit, in this criminal complaint. And he's going to talk about some holes that he noticed, which I'm going to get to in a second. But first, let me go to the acting U.S. attorney in Los Angeles. You'll hear what he had to say about connecting this man now to the fires, holding him responsible for the fires.
Late last New Year's Eve, Rinderknecht returned to Pacific Palisades after working the evening shift as an Uber driver. Two of his passengers told law enforcement that he appeared agitated and angry that night. After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rinderknecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video including objects being lit on fire. The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. 12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started. It took the defendant several tries to contact 911 to report the fire. He fled the scene in his car, but turned around after passing fire engines driving in the opposite direction to fight the fire. While the Lockman fire burned, the defendant walked up the same trail from earlier that night to watch the fire and firefighters.
So something else interesting here with this man, Rinderknecht, he, according to the criminal complaint, provided a prompt to ChatGPT on July 11th, 2024, trying to get ChatGPT to come up with an image. And this is the image, and this is the prompt that he gave, which is kind of disturbing. A dystopian painting divided into distinct parts that blend together seamlessly, and he was very specific. On the far left, there is a burning forest. Next to it, and again, this is his prompt, this is the quote. So on the far left, there is a burning forest. Next to it, a crowd of people is running away from the fire, leading to the middle. In the middle, hundreds of thousands of people in poverty are trying to get past a gigantic gate with a big dollar sign on it. On the other side of the gate and the entire wall is a conglomerate of the richest people. They are chilling, watching the world burn down, and watching the people struggle. They are laughing, enjoying themselves, and dancing. The scene is detailed and impactful, highlighting the stark contrast and the direct 18 connection between the different parts of the world. So that is the prompt that he gave ChatGPT, and this image you're looking at is the image that ChatGPT came up with. And this image and this prompt is actually in the criminal complaint. So this is all part of the evidence that they have. So again, they say that he started the fire on July 1st, that it was a holdover fire. So basically, in the complaint, they allege that he started the fire, that he then called 911 several times and was attempting to call 911. And that then the fire department came out, thought they put the fire out, but then it was what they called the holdover fire, where it was smoldering underground, and then reignited again on January 7th, which led to the Palisades fire, which was obviously the big devastating fire, one of the big devastating fires in California. They also allege that he was listening to this French song and a French rap video that features the artist setting multiple fires as he talks about despair and bitterness. So the rap video is also part of the criminal complaint. And there are Google records that indicate Rinderknecht had listened to the same song 9 times in the previous 4 days. Again, immediately called 911, but there are questions, which you'll hear me talk to Steve about whether he was just doing that to sort of like cover up for what he was doing. He asked ChatGPT, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" And ChatGPT's response was yes. That's also in the criminal complaint. This is also interesting. During his interview on January 24, 2025, investigators noticed that Rinderknecht's carotid artery would pulsate and become visible whenever they asked Rinderknecht a question about how the fire started or who started it. Based on my training and experience, the agent wrote in the criminal complaint, that indicates that Rinderknecht was extremely anxious as to that issue. Interesting they put that in. Again, you're going to hear my former FBI friend talk about how he's never seen something like that put into a complaint, and he actually doesn't like that it was put into it necessarily. While Rinderknecht was descending the hill after the Lockman fire, which was the first fire they allege he set, that then smoldered and eventually set the Palisades, he made a 3-minute screen recording on his iPhone, recording himself attempting to call 911 several times and eventually connecting with 911 and asking ChatGPT, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" And then the agent wrote, based on my training and experience with this investigation, this indicates that Rinderknecht wanted to preserve evidence of himself trying to assist in the suppression of the fire, and he wanted to create evidence. And then on November 1st, 2024, Rinderknecht asked the following prompt to ChatGPT. I am 28 years old, and this just happened maybe I don't know, maybe 3 months ago or something, like the realization of all this. I literally burnt the Bible that I had. It felt amazing. I felt so liberated. And Rinderknecht wrote to a family member, apparently burned the Bible. So that's also interesting, and apparently they found all of this through his digital records. There's also photos in the criminal complaint that actually show some kind of surveillance photo here that shows his car, they say, at the scene near where the fire started. And then they've also got photos from a camera nearby that show the fire actually starting. So there is a digital footprint here in terms of connecting Rinderknecht to the fire. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions about, should he be solely blamed for all of this? When you think about the bigger picture of the failure of the government, which has been documented at this point, to be ready for a fire that many say was brewing for a long time. Should he be the only one to blame? Is a question that a lot of people in California are asking right now. So I'm joined now by Steve Moore, former FBI agent. Steve, I was just going through the criminal complaint, which is interesting, and there's a lot of detail, and there's pictures. Some things really, I don't know, I was confused by. I mean, what stood out to you?
There's a lot of stuff in there that I've not seen put in a prosecutive report before. Things like every time he was asked about this fire, his jugular vein kind of popped out and stuff like that. That's it's not something a judge, I'm sure, would even allow into a court. I don't know why you'd put it into that kind of document. But overall, what I saw here was somebody who has built a good case, a circumstantial case, but to me, it's lacking the full case. I just don't know if I would have taken this in.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little confusing. Well, first of all, I'll go back to what you said about the jugular. They actually put in there, during his interview on January 24th, investigators noticed that his artery would pulsate and become visible whenever they asked him a question about how the fire started or who started it. And then the agent wrote, based on my training experience, that indicates that he was extremely anxious as to that issue. When I was reading it, it stood out to me too, and I was just thinking, wouldn't anyone be nervous talking to an agent regardless?
Yes. And certainly, I mean, think about that. Have you ever heard of a case where somebody said, but his carotid artery, it kind of pulsated whenever we asked him that question? It's not a fingerprint. It's not DNA. It is, and it doesn't apply to. It's just something I've never seen put in a report like this, nor would I have.
What do you make of him calling 911, according to the criminal complaint, over and over again? Apparently the service wasn't good, but he was calling 911, trying to get through. I'm just thinking, if I'm a juror, is that a little confusing?
No, I don't think so at all. In fact, it goes to the modus operandi of certain people who we have seen in the past and documented in the past, what people have done, or the reasons that they have started fires. Some of them just get some a type of enjoyment that's hard to describe about starting a fire and seeing fire doing damage. Some others actually do it as a way to act like a hero. Some arsonists have been until they are finally arrested for an arson, have in the past been kind of, heroes by stopping a fire before it got out of control. Makes them look very important. He might have been doing something along those lines. And it's also possible that he could foresee that they would know that he had been up there and wanted to establish that he was trying to put it out, knowing that there was just no chance that it was going to be put out at that point.
Well, yeah, and he allegedly recorded himself on video calling 911.
Yeah, that's a lot of people don't do that. I mean, a lot of people, when they're calling 911, don't take the time to make sure they're recording themselves. First of all, 911 records every conversation. And number two, why? I mean, you're 911 means you're in an exigent circumstance. The time it took him to set up his phone to make sure that he was recording, let the fire take hold. So right then and there, doing that indicates gross negligence at the very least, but I think it really goes towards an intentional motive.
In terms of the Chat GPT element, he asked Chat GPT, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" And he asked some other questions about cigarettes, but then the complaint also says that, and in the press conference too, that they think he may have used a lighter to start the fire. So, I mean, do you think could he have thrown a cigarette? I mean, what did you take away from it?
I think that arson investigators would have had a pretty decent idea of whether a cigarette was the initiator of this fire, and so my guess is that he didn't know that and was trying to establish that the worst that could happen to him is an accidental type of fire starter. And, he seems to be somebody who has gotten really into crime and solving crimes and things like that. And he knows that law enforcement can pick up everything that you've Googled off your phone, off your computers, things like that. And that's a way that people are now, in a more sophisticated way, establishing an alibi and establishing state of mind. Because in this kind of case, you do have to establish that it was intentional. And so what he was, at least to get murder charges out of this, what he was doing is going to the heart of whether it was intentional or not, and keeping murder off the table if he was discovered.
Do you think there's enough evidence here?
I would be a little bit tense about putting it in, but at the same time, they're not laying out all that they have here. I mean, this is their charging document. This is the stuff that they're going to get him in with. There may be a lot more stuff out there, but from what I'm seeing, if that was all I had, I'd wait, because right now we're not necessarily in fire season yet, and you've got more time, and you have the option to take some time to make your case airtight on this one. And he's really kind of put himself into a hole, but. So I think that the chance of conviction is good. It's just not a slam dunk.
It's not a slam dunk. Yeah, I mean, because some of the stuff certainly raises your eyebrows. I mean, the song about fires, the French song, but some of it also, like they like you mentioned, the fact that his artery was, he was nervous. The fact that he was grumpy with the Uber driver, with the Uber passengers. Like, I'm just wondering, if you're in the grand jury, I don't know, it doesn't seem like black and white evidence.
It isn't. It isn't. Absolutely. I mean, I had an Uber driver grumpy with me this week, and I haven't burned anything. So, I mean, this isn't a real good indicator of the quality of their evidence. What they're trying to do is make a circumstantial case, at least to get the indictment. And frankly, in front of a grand jury, you can get away with a lot that you cannot get away with in a federal court. So they just wanted this guy, hopefully, in custody and have a lot more information. And they're going to be able to destroy some of his stuff where he's saying, well, I called 911 10 times. And they said, oh, and the next day when you could have called and at least discussed the start of the fire, you forgot the number, you forgot 911's phone number. So he's in pretty bad shape legally right now. But if this is all they had, I wouldn't have gone forward with it. However, I suspect that they've got some real good stuff beyond this.
Just based on this, though, do you see enough evidence that it was intentional?
No. I mean, the predominance of the evidence leads me to believe it is. I mean, right now, from what I've seen, yeah, I do believe this was intentional. And so the evidence is that good. But when you're talking about somebody who might conceivably be looking at a death penalty or multiple murders, they're going to want a little bit more evidence than circumstantial as far as motive is concerned. And, a real good defense attorney can take real solid evidence and turn it away. And this is not real solid that I'm seeing. But there are things that I know they've got that they haven't really discussed, what he did up until that time, what his friends say about him, or all of the evidence that they have off his computer. They are obviously holding back some real important stuff. And the reason for that is the same reason that the coaches in an NFL game don't swap game plans before the game. You just want to surprise people with where you're going with it and what you have.
It's interesting. Rick Caruso put out a statement after the press conference about the criminal complaint. And he, of course, ran for mayor in Los Angeles. He's a real estate mogul. I want to read you what he said. He said, "This is a tragic day for Los Angeles, and my heart goes out to all the families who experienced so much devastation in January and now are being forced to grapple with all those emotions again. As the U.S. Attorney said, evil people will do evil things. That this was an evil act, and the individual identified must be held accountable for his reckless and malicious actions to the fullest extent of the law. What makes today even harder is that everything we feared about this disaster being preventable turned out to be 100% true. This was a failure of government on an epic level, starting with Mayor Bass, her and the city's incompetence, mismanagement, and failure to plan, prepare, and pre-deploy directly led to people dying, thousands of lives being upended, and put on full display the consequences of ineffective and incapable leadership." I mean, what do you make of that, Steve? Because I was thinking that too. I mean, everybody's now just blaming this guy, or a lot of people are, but it seems like this was a failure of the whole system.
Yeah, and a lot of this will get into politics and debatable topics, and I'm really a law enforcement commentator. I do have some pretty strong feelings on this, but I think what Caruso is saying is that don't just say, "Aha, now we found who did this." No. If there had been preparation and things like that, is what he's alleging. If there had been proper preparation, proper anticipation, and proper legal support or political support for the fire department, this wouldn't have been this multiple death, thousands of home fire, regardless of what this individual did with a lighter up on a hill.
Do you think that could be an issue? Because they haven't taken this to a grand jury yet. I mean, if you've got people from California who are upset about the fires and the way it was handled, could that be an issue?
Well, if you've got somebody on the grand jury who lost a home or had friends who lost a home, I think they'd probably need to recuse them. But I think that once you get into trial, especially in a federal court, you are not going to be able to bring in political defenses. You are not going to be able to do jury nullification. You're not going to do a lot of things that you might have seen in a lot of poorly adjudicated cases, prominent ones, especially in the past. You're not going to be able to bring the past or the political failures into a courtroom when what we're looking at is this guy did it. This guy, by his actions, murdered these people. And what they'll say, you can overcome this by saying, listen, just there would have been a catastrophe regardless of how it had been prepared for. But certainly some of the damage, maybe even some of the deaths, could have been avoided. But this person intended what happened to happen. He did not do this with the expectation that Mayor Bass would adequately run this firefighting situation and would have prepared for it. He did this expecting to have a major conflagration.
And based on what it was the ATF who did the investigation. They go into pretty good detail about all of their methods and how they can study where the fire moved and, going back to the origin. I mean, how good is all of that when it comes down to, actually going to court? Can they really say exactly where a fire of this size started and the fact that it went underground for days and then popped back up? I mean, can they really know that?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I actually, when I was at a university that had its own fire department, I took fire training there, some wildland fire training. You can literally look at plumes and the direction of wind. There are so many indicators of where a fire started. And working with ATF, when I was in the Bureau, their ability to determine locations of fires, presence of accelerants. All these things are just mind-boggling. It is a science. And the ATF Fire Lab is going to have some science that's going to be irrefutable. It's going to be DNA fingerprint type of stuff that a jury will not be able to ignore. And not be able, and a defense attorney is not going to be able to defeat it. So they're going to have some scientific evidence of where the fire started, why the fire started, how it started, and probably when it started. Whether or not the investigation at that point is sophisticated enough to go to motive is not for sure. And certainly ATF doesn't have science on to help them with that.
What do you make of motive? I mean, because again, it made it sound like he was depressed and he was grumpy as an Uber driver and some of the songs he was listening to and that Chat GPT image created. But I mean, did you get a sense of a clear motive?
No, I didn't. But arson in and of itself is a psychological component that is well known. I'm not an arson investigator, but I think it's very probable that they have found that he has gotten into a certain pattern here that certain arsonists get into. And obviously there are depressed people. There are people who are upset at being Uber drivers. There are people who act out their frustration and their depression. And sometimes they do desperate things. But how many of them set mass fires? I mean, the fact that he set a fire and you can go back along his tech trail, if you want to call it that, back for things he's Googled, back for things he's listened to, he's researched, and he's talked about, it all goes to fire. And so that actually works very strongly against him.
So the suspect is accused of setting the fire, and then the fire department showed up. thought they put it out, but it was smoldering underground and then days later popped back up. A lot of people are saying, like, look, the fire department didn't do a good enough job. They should have stayed out there longer. I mean, could this be an issue if this goes to trial, putting all of the blame on this guy? And I mean, is it partly the firefighters' fault?
Well, I'm sure that's exactly what the defense attorneys are going to say. Hey, all he did was start a fire that should have been put out, and what's the problem for that? Let me give you a couple of examples. If I come into a bank with a gun and a mask and say, "Give me all your money," and they say no, and I panic and I run out, I didn't get my money. I didn't rob the bank, but I tried, and I can be sentenced for just the same amount of time as if I had successfully robbed that bank. The other thing is that if deaths occur, even if deaths occur not anticipated or because of other people's negligence during a crime, during a felony that I am causing, I am committing, then I am actually responsible for the consequences of those. For instance, if I am robbing that bank and now they put the silent alarm on and the police are rushing to the bank, but they're doing it with sirens off so that they can get to the bank and surround it before I hear the sirens, and they hit a pedestrian in a crosswalk. That's tragic. That's something that I, as the bank robber, never anticipated. That might even be negligence on the fault of the police officer. But guess what? I'm going to get charged with that homicide, because had my felony act not occurred, that wouldn't have even been an issue. So the fact that I started a fire, or he started a fire, intended to do drastic, horrible damage, and the fire department didn't quite put it out right, does not absolve him from the guilt of their mistake, because had he not started that fire, they wouldn't have had any mistake to make.
I appreciate Steve for talking with me. Again, you know, so many lives were lost. Thousands of homes were destroyed. It wasn't just the Palisades fire, but, you know, there were several fires that popped up around then. And I just wanted to remind you of some of the people who I spoke to during that time when I was there, just to remind everyone of the way that this impacted people's lives. And a lot of people just assume that it was just rich people in some of these areas. And yeah, there were a lot of rich people, but there were also a lot of working class people that either owned these homes forever, they were homes that were passed down to them by other, you know, by their parents or grandparents, and they just work regular jobs and they lost literally everything. So at the end of the day, I think this should really be about them.
This is your house?
This is my house. This one right here. We moved in 26 years ago. And we did the floors, and we put in windows and doors and painted, and just put, my grandchildren loved it. My son and my daughter-in-law, my family, we hosted Christmas Eve and Christmas Day here, and everybody was here. My little house that I loved. My husband just had his 4th cancer surgery. I poured everything into it. My nephew.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
I really am. I don't even know what to say.
That's okay. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just. We haven't been sleeping. We haven't slept. We're staying at a hotel. We have nowhere to go. We don't know what we're doing. We were close neighbors. Buzz and Todd. His mom passed away and they took over the house. John just lost his wife that he adored, but was taking care of that house. She was a Superior Court judge, and Beverly and John, so much love. She was so incredible, and the house is gone.
I just can't believe they're all gone. Like
they're all gone. See, Debbie and us and Tina, our children went to school together from kindergarten. Our kids are in their 47 years old.
Like, what are you thinking?
I mean, it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. I don't think it'll ever be the same. I mean, I've grown up here my whole life since I was a little toddler, and I'm riding my bike around like I used to, and yeah, I mean, it's just shocking. It hasn't really hit me yet.
What does it feel like?
I don't know yet. You know, you get that sort of numbness. Just figure it out. Not quite sure.